My first reaction on the character was I couldn't kind of comprehend where I could kind of, what angle I could come at. It really was something I've never encountered before or really been asked to play. I mean, I'm grateful that Tom thought of me and gave me that opportunity to do this, because those are the excitements that you get as an actor, to really challenge what's not in your comfort zone. And then to have a filmmaker who will take you there and take you on that journey, and that's exactly what I did. You know, I had a lot of questions and a lot of concerns, and really didn't have, you know, a lot of self-doubt and not much confidence, and until I sat down with Tom, and then he kind of, like, you know, educate me and express what he wanted, and really just start to create and collaborate with him. Did I realize that I, you know, could let go and give him, you know, put my trust in his hands, and it was thrilling and exciting, and that's kind of, yeah, it's kind of how it came about. But I think as a whole, the script was just this whole sort of looking back at your relationship and what you in regret, and it being portrayed through this narrative of this story in the way that it was extremely original and complex and ambitious and just unique, and seeing that love story kind of unravel but back to front, you know, was just really eloquent and interesting. I did, and I made the mistake of telling Tom that I was, you know, reading it at the time, and I was halfway through and he told me to stop. And usually I'd go, you know, continue reading, but I asked him why. I said, well, why? And he said, because it's so much more than that now, you know. Like, if you read drafts way back, then yeah, sure, but at that point it had already grown into something that was more personal to him and more unique. And I respect that, you know, yeah. Because ultimately it's his vision, and I want to be on the director's page from, you know, and so it was hard to, but because I was intrigued to see, you know, is there something I can, you know, pick out? But he said, specifically for you, Ray, he transformed him and made him something different, and there's something he wanted, and visually, so I wanted to go on that journey with him and create what he wanted, because there's no point, you know, going behind someone's back and doing something different. So yeah, so. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I see him not only as a director, I do see him as a filmmaker. You know, the fact that he found this material and then, you know, worked on it and adapted it to a screenplay, and then, you know, he's all in. And that passion drives everything. You know, that becomes the center point, and everyone is just magnetically pulled to that kind of a person, and that's a true director right there. You know? Yeah, Ray, my character's not only is he a fictional character, but he's a part of Susan's sort of imagination, and a real he's that fear that we all have that can suddenly out of nowhere come along and destroy everything. He's chaos. He's this force of nature that is unpredictable. My character is charming and charismatic, but ultimately dangerous, and he will take whatever he wants, and that's something that Tony doesn't understand yet, I guess. He is that fear. Thank you, yeah. I think that was the genius behind Tom. I think it's the uncertainty that's the thriller, the scariness behind it, you know, and that's interesting. I think when people think of villainous people, it's ultimately like they're brutish or they're tough physically or But to be sort of psychologically or manipulating and cleverly charming, and it you know, it was a whole new way of, for me, to come at that character. And Tom knew exactly what he wanted and was very precise and very detailed, and was able to take me there, I guess, you know. Absolutely, yeah. I researched characters that had those sort of similar events, such as like Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy, for one. I mean, it's very sort of, you know, books. I think there's Killers on the Road. There are, yeah, sort of psychopaths, and you know, the empathy, that they have no empathy behind the eyes, and yet totally believe in what they're doing is not inhumane, and the psychology of that, the charismatic sort of magnetic pull that these kind of guys can have, which is what's that frightening aspect.
It is.
There was a documentary, a HBO documentary at the time called The Jinx, which was extraordinary to watch, and kind of grab from any of these characters, grab sort of mannerisms, you know. And then also Tom set the book in West Texas, and wanted my character to be, you know, of that kind of redneck area.
Yeah.
So then, you know, tonally I have a place, you know, I have somewhere I can kind of be. So
Yeah.
I hang out, you know, I started, you know, I went to Texas, and, you know, I was in Marfa, and, you know, you spend some time there and pick up some things, and
things like
Alex,
that.
and you know, what cigarettes do they smoke, how they, you know, what's the thing, you know, anything. It's a physicality, and then also for Tom, what's fun to play with character is that, and how I kind of work also, is sometimes you have to deal with the aesthetic first of what does the character look like, you know, and then kind of go deeper, you know, start on the outside and go in, or miraculously sort of do it at the same time, but whilst you're playing. So, and he knew what's clever about Tom was, I think he needed a new image for me, you know, like what haven't, you know, I think that's kind of what Tom's really great at doing as well, sort of taking an actor and pulling them out of their comfort zone, but then creating something you've never seen before, which I think is, you know, he straightened my hair or had me grow a beard, and then he personally shaved, you know, mutton chops in.
Really?
You know, but I love how connected we were. He didn't have someone else do it. It was very hands-on, and like, all right, you know, he got to play. I literally was Play-Doh in his hands, and he could. But I liked that. I like to explore, and I like for the and the fact that the director's actually really interested in what the characters look like, and not afraid to, you know, make me look gritty or do something. You know, you want to add bruising or add a little ring that was maybe from a previous. You know, there's such
detail.
His eye for detail was extraordinary and extreme, and you can obviously tell that in his fashion world, and in his movies, the aesthetic, but it goes deeper than that. It really does. There's so much thought behind everything, and that for actors is a lot of fun to play with, the backstories and you know, yeah. So he thinks about each role and really, and I think what's great and interesting is you know, you can tell he loves each character individually in their own way, like with no judgment, like love people for what they're not good at, you know, like or he doesn't act in the way that we all hope for,
Completely.
which is what I think is what's amazing to see, you know. It's and I know Jake, like you said earlier, that was a real hard thing to stop himself from in those moments, because it was my job to push him to the brink and push his buttons and really manipulate him psychologically and get reactions out of him, make him feel vulnerable and insecure, and so it was challenging, and tough. I love it. It's all I kind of know really. It's therapeutic in a way, It's an interesting way to explore people and psychology and interact in this way that, it's extraordinary to. It's a feeling that is. It's like living on the edge, and it's scary, I think. It's hard to explain, but it's for movies like this anyway. There are other movies I've done, and it's it really doesn't have to be not like it's taken seriously, but it's more like. It's all on the surface, or it can be fun and enjoyable. But when you take a character and really study and want to kind of create that, then it's sort of changing the DNA almost in your body, and you take something from it. I don't know what it is, because it can be something that you look back in time and go, there's a reason why I did that then, or that kind of was interesting because that imitated, art imitating life in some way. Not in this character specifically, but there's something that always, you take something from characters, I think. I enjoy it when it's things like this. I think experiences for me are what last more than the film. The film can go on for years and years, but it's like what I remember was the intimacy that we all had together. We were working with Tom and Jake, and on that night and those scenes, and where we went to was a heightened level of, somewhere that we've, out of our comfort zone, where you just feel free to explore and play, and it's incredible.